There are many competing conspiracy theories regarding the events of September 11, 2001. One of them is who is primarily responsible for these attacks? Well, according to intelligence reports in the legacy media, in regards to those same reports, Osama bin Laden was a primary suspect. But as we get to uh, intelligence reports coming out much later, and with the capture of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and Ramzi bin al Shib, as well as Abu Zubaydah, we find out that bin Laden was basically a primary financier of the attacks. And if you're going to take the information from Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, grain of salt here. Remember, the man was waterboarded 183 times in a single month. So whatever he has to say, we basically really have to uh, give it its due diligence and remember that you say anything under the confessors of torture. Not to say that bin Laden didn't have anything to do with 9/11. He didn't actually deny it. I mean, there were third hand reports coming out on the day of 9/11 through Afghanistan and Pakistan newspapers suggesting that bin Laden denied the attack. Well, of course, he's going to deny the attack, considering that the United States is basically going to respond militarily and with force. But it came out in 2002 that he did two news videos, interviews, one with um, Al Jazeera, uh, Aluni Taysir, where he basically didn't deny the attacks. He basically praised the attacks. And of course, there was a video that was found in Afghanistan, a video with Osama bin Laden, Suleiman Abu Ghaith, a Al Qaeda spokesperson, Ayman al Zawahiri, and a Saudi Mujahideen fighter named Khalid al Harbi. This is the infamous video where bin Laden is sitting down and he describes how the planes had crashed into the World Trade Center and they had spoken with the operatives in the months before. There's also a video that you can find on archive.org where Al Qaeda's media arm, um, Al Mossad, Al Mossad, basically did a home video in August. I want to say it's August of 2001, right before the terrorist attacks happened, where bin Laden is actually addressing uh, trainees at the Al Farouk training camp. But like I said, give that with a grain of salt regarding the complicity or the link directly to bin Laden. I think he was basically a financier, but I don't think he constructed the operation at all. Do I think Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who actually confessed to constructing the operation? Well, according to many sources, he was the primary um, designer of the operation. I think he was. Um, Considering that he was involved with the Bajinka plot, along with his nephew Ramzi Youssef, about bombing 12 planes over the Pacific, planes taking off the United States and heading to Southeast Asia and to points nearby. So the idea of crashing planes into high valued U.S. targets became known to the intelligence apparatuses. And this is where the mistake is made by many in the truth movement who don't believe in hijackers or don't believe the Saudis were complicit, but they throw away great evidence that the NSA, who was listening into the satellite phone of bin Laden, and of course, the monitoring of all calls coming out of the Ahmed al Hada home, which was based in Sana'a, Yemen, which is the Al Qaeda communications hub. And they've had a bug in that home for 5 years. And the CIA was monitoring operations and were in charge of that operation. So who knows what they knew, because they never shared it with one another, nor were they very adamant to tell the 9/11 Commission or the Joint House. about the information that they ascertained from both the NSA and the CIA. The NSA barely was asked a question in regards to those two congressional inquiries. So, who's primarily responsible for the September 11th attacks? Well, as of right now, we only know very little. And so speculation comes into play, but what good does that do us if we're acting as responsible investigators? Well, don't use speculation as a form of evidence. So what do we have? We have very little evidence showing that Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was the primary architect of September 11, 2001, involving hijacking planes and crashing them into uh, sensitive U.S. targets. Um, and the intelligence apparatuses most likely knew about the operation and allowed foreign intelligence agencies like Saudi Arabia and Israel to monitor the hijackers inside the United States because the CIA is actually not allowed to conduct operations within their own home country. Not to say that they don't, but in this case, it's better to contract foreign intelligence because we don't have to interview foreign intelligence because once the operation is over, everybody gets to be deported and they're not allowed to be investigated here in the United States. But isn't that what happened in the weeks uh, after the September 11th attacks? The number of Israeli operatives that were inside the United States with the art student ring and the moving companies, all deported because they had expired U.S. visas, temp visas. Same thing for the Saudis and Arabs of their home country. In regards to the massive FBI sweep regarding September 14th and 15th, in which my co-researcher Nelson Martin's DJ Thermal Detonator um, intricately reports in many of his films and also on his channel, Truth to TV Archives, which I'll link down below, and you can take a look. All these people, the Saudis, the Arabs, the Israeli operatives, were all deported back to their home countries, and very few, if any, were interviewed by 9/11 Commission. The only two that I know of, Omar al-Bayoumi and Fahad al-Thumeri, basically were disingenuous in their interviews, and Fahad al-Thumeri was lying in his 9/11 Commission report. Even states in the memorandum for the record regarding Fahad al-Thumeri, and I'll link that down below as well. And so we're basically left with very few evidence showing who else was primarily involved with the attacks. We do know that 9/11 was basically supposed to be a bigger operation. More planes were to be hijacked, but that was covered up by the FBI in the ensuing days. They told us there was only 3 to 6 hijackers each on board, but they knew about the hijackers' names and dates and places where they would be. In fact, in Logan Airport, according to one supervisor, security supervisor, he states that the FBI, while looking at the security tape, were picking out the hijackers by name. Well, how would they know that? How would they know the muscle hijackers by name? They probably would know the Hamburg cell, but how would they know the muscle hijackers involved? That wasn't known until much later. And they did a press briefing on September 27th. For the first time, the public got to see the names and faces of the 19 hijackers that were involved. But we do know there was more. But who were they and who contracted them? Because according to Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and Osama Bin Laden and Abu Zubaydah and Ramzi bin al-Shibh, all the primary contacts and operatives that were directly involved with September 11 attacks, they basically say it was 19. So who are these people? And of course, we had dry runs in the months prior to the attacks. Mohammed Al-Qut Tamim tried to get inside a United Airlines plane. I'm sorry, a TSA flight, and he basically tried to get in the cabin, mistaking it for the bathroom, not once but twice. Basically, they were investigated by the FBI, and they were let go. on the date inside their arrival inside the United States, they were incidentally going to Washington, D.C., and they were going to a Saudi dinner uh, involving many Saudi princes. So, who are these people? Um, and of course, the Qatar 5 that were going to hijack American Airlines Flight 77 the day before, but they backed out on the day of September 11th and they left the country. There was a slight investigation regarding these people, but nothing came afterwards. And of course, the numerous detailed reports about a large number of Arabs training in flight schools throughout the Southwest. Of course, the Phoenix memo penned by FBI agent Ken Williams, and of course, the Able Danger Operation, which was a defense intelligence agency um, covert operation led by Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer, Lieutenant Colonel Eric Kleinsmith, and others, four others, intelligence data mining, where they would collect data mining over the internet regarding terrorist cells inside the United States. They found that there were three, two belonging inside New York. One was the Brooklyn cell, led by Omar Abdel Rahman, and of course, Mohammed Atta in the Hamburg cell. Um, and of course, the Saudis in the West, which were monitored by Omar al Bayoumi and Osama bin Laden, who were Saudi operatives, Saudi intelligence operatives, monitoring Khalid al Midar, Nawaf al Hazmi, and Hani Anjur. And out east, you had the Israeli operatives monitoring the Hamburg cell, Mohammed Atta, Ziad Jarrah, and Marwan al Shehi. And of course, the whole story regarding Ziad Jarrah, living separately from the hijackers and his family being Mossad assets and intelligence spies. One for 25 years, Ali al Jarrah, his brother Joseph al Jarrah, who was a spy for 10 years, and of course, Asim al Jarrah, who was an Iraqi, Syrian, German spy, um, and also um, a intelligence report called Operation Jara, which was a covert operation in which he was a spy inside a terrorist cell involved with terrorist bombings and the hijacking of, I forget the name of the flight that was supposed to be involved in the bombing of it. So we have all this intelligence coming out, even from foreign intelligence and domestic intelligence, as well as countries who are suspected in the attack: Saudi Arabia, Israel, and Pakistan at some level, giving us vague reports regarding um, where these attacks will come from: Osama bin Laden, Al Qaeda. It's not like the FBI or the State Department were caught off guard. They knew about these, that there was an operation, a large scale operation that was going to involve the hijacking of planes months prior, even years prior, regarding the Bajinka plot. That report from the Philippines investigator Rodolfo Mendoza was handed to the FBI, and according to Mendoza, they did nothing with it. But it's not like that the intelligence regarding inside that report was not valuable, because it was valuable because it showed that there were sleeper cells inside the United States as far back as 1995 that were training to fly in flight schools, ready to hijack these flights and crash them. And one of the first targets was CIA Langley, that was involved in the Pachinko plot, according to Abdul Hakim Murad, who was interrogated for his role in the Pachinko plot. So we have a number of suspects that either had foreknowledge, that were complicit in the attacks, or plotted the attacks. But the investigations are incomplete. So this is the reason why we need a new investigation, but we aren't going to get one if we have so many within the truth movement who espouse rabid conspiracy theories. And that looks bad, not just on the respectable researchers that are in the truth movement, but are also independent of it, as well as society as a whole, because they'll look at us and link us to known rabid conspiracists who are basically frauds at this point, knowing frauds to the public, and that's like Alex Jones, Jim Fetzer, um, Rebecca Roth, and Judy Wood, and the rest of them, and Loose Change, and I could go on and on. But we want to disseminate from these people in these groups and have a more respectable movement. But in order to do that, we need to do some house cleaning. And I basically did previous videos regarding what I think the truth movement should do in regards to revamping the movement itself. In regards to the 9/11 attacks and the suspect itself, well, we're still waiting on the Guantanamo Five, who are being held in Guantanamo Bay regarding the trial of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the primary suspect, Ramzi bin al Shib, his brother in law Abdul Aziz al Aziz, and Mustafa al Hasnawi, um, regarding their roles in the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks. And the trial keeps getting pushed back, and the lawyers, the defense lawyers, are just salivating at the moment for the trial to start because everything that was said under duress or torture is not going to be admitted as evidence because it's not evidence. And maybe that's the reason why it's in Guantanamo Bay and not in a federal court, because in federal court, you actually have a speedy trial, um, as well as uh, not being under the auspices of certain intelligence apparatuses like the CIA who are going to torture you for information. They didn't have to do that because the FBI actually was interviewing Abu Zubaydah, and they were getting somewhere, according to Ali Soufan, who's an FBI counterintelligence agent. And when the State Department allowed John Yoo to rewrite the torture memo in which they contracted the services of James Mitchell, um, and I want to say Peter something. Um, I forget the other guy's name, and they co-wrote a torture program that was used on the suspects of the September 11th attacks, um, waterboarding Ramzi bin al Shib 83 times and Khalid Sheikh Mohammed 183, 173 times, an absurd amount. You're not waterboarding these people for information after the 100th time. You're getting them to admit to crimes that they never committed in the first place. Was 9/11 being one of them? Could be. But I'm going to end it here and let you decide in the comment section who you think are the primary suspects. Don't, like I said before, don't use speculation as evidence. It's not. It's fine to speculate as to who you think may have a role in the September 11th attacks. And also don't link me to, Christopher Bolin or Loose Change or CIT. These people are conspiracy theorists, rabid conspiracy theorists that don't make sense. They're no planers and no hijackers. And I don't need that nonsense. And I don't support that nonsense either. And neither should you. So that's it for today's video. See you the next time.